I looked toward the ocean. Hundreds of people walked along the shoreline holding hands, laughing together, collecting shells as children chased the tide. Meanwhile, my husband was less than 10 feet away. And somehow I'd never felt farther from him. The following afternoon I decided to spend several hours reading beneath a beach umbrella. The rhythmic sound of the waves calmed my thoughts. For the first time since arriving, I stopped thinking about fixing my marriage. Instead, I simply watched the ocean. Sometimes we become so focused on repairing our relationships that we forget to notice what we ourselves have become. Somewhere along the way, I had stopped asking what made me happy. Everything revolved around keeping peace, keeping schedules, keeping hope alive. Maybe I'd forgotten how to care for myself. That realization lingered with me long after the sun disappeared behind the horizon. That night another notification appeared. This message was different. It wasn't about work. It wasn't about our house. Simply read. Claire, I hope you're finding at least a few peaceful moments during your trip. You deserve them. I stared at those words much longer than I expected. No hidden meaning. No flirtation. Just kindness. Simple, genuine kindness. I couldn't remember the last time someone had reminded me that my happiness mattered. I slipped my phone into my pocket and looked out across the dark ocean. For reasons I couldn't explain, I had the quiet feeling that when this vacation ended, life would not return to the way it had been before. And I was right. He managed several important projects at the company and was widely respected for remaining calm under pressure. Until then, we'd only met briefly at one company gathering. Hope you're both enjoying the beach. Everything here is under control. Don't worry about the office. I smiled. It was thoughtful. Nothing more. I showed Nathan. See? Your team has everything covered. He barely glanced at the screen. That's good. Then he returned to answering another email. During the following days, Adrian occasionally sent small updates. Nothing personal. Nothing inappropriate. One afternoon he sent a picture of our rose garden. The flowers I'd spent years caring for were blooming beautifully. Thought you'd like to see these. The image made me unexpectedly emotional. Home suddenly felt very far away. Another day he mentioned that a heavy storm had passed through our neighborhood, but everything looked fine. Another message simply said a package had been safely placed inside the garage. Small things. Simple things. Yet each update somehow made me feel noticed. Not because of romance. Because someone had remembered the details that mattered to me. One evening I sat alone on the balcony watching waves crash against the shore. Nathan remained inside with his laptop balanced on his knees. Without looking up, he asked, "Who are you texting?" Adrian sent another update about the house. Nathan chuckled softly. He probably knows more about our home than I do this week. His words were meant as a joke. But they landed heavily. Because they felt painfully true. I wanted to believe him. I truly did. Unfortunately, that promise didn't survive the day. Calls continued. Emails followed. By afternoon, the laptop I'd hoped would remain closed sat open on the hotel desk. His fingers moved rapidly across the keyboard while spreadsheets replaced ocean views. Every notification pulled him farther away. That evening we had reservations at a waterfront restaurant. 30 minutes before leaving, another phone call arrived. I need to take this. I nodded. I'll wait. An hour later I was still sitting alone. Eventually I canceled the reservation. When Nathan finally finished, he looked guilty. I'm sorry. It's okay. But it wasn't. Not really. The next morning I decided not to wait around the hotel. Instead, I explored the town by myself. There was something peaceful about wandering without a destination. I visited a local farmer's market where musicians performed near colorful fruit stands. An elderly woman sold handmade seashell jewelry. A painter worked quietly beside the harbor, capturing fishing boats on canvas. Life moved slowly there. No one seemed rushed. Everyone smiled at strangers. I realized how exhausted I'd become without even noticing. Back home, every day revolved around deadlines. Here, people paused to admire flowers growing beside sidewalks. It felt strangely comforting. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. The message surprised me. Adrian. Nathan had mentioned him countless times over the years. Gentle waves rolled toward the shore while dozens of seagulls floated effortlessly above the surf. This is exactly what I needed, I whispered. Nathan wrapped an arm around my shoulders. We're going to enjoy every minute. At least that was the plan. The first 2 days were wonderful. We woke early and walked barefoot along the beach. We tried restaurants recommended by locals instead of tourist guides. We rented bicycles and explored quiet neighborhoods filled with charming little houses painted in cheerful colors. One afternoon we stumbled upon a tiny bookstore tucked between a bakery and an art gallery. Nathan disappeared into the history section while I wandered toward travel books. It reminded me of our early dates when we could spend hours together without checking our phones. That evening we watched the sunset from a wooden pier. The sky transformed into brilliant shades of orange, pink, and deep purple. It's beautiful, I said. Nathan nodded. I forgot sunsets could actually look like this. Neither of us realized how quickly that peaceful feeling would disappear. Everything changed on the morning of the third day. Nathan's phone vibrated while we were eating breakfast. He frowned after reading the screen. Everything okay? I'll just be a minute. He stepped outside the restaurant. 10 minutes became 20, then 30. When he finally returned, his coffee had gone cold. There was an issue at work. I forced a smile. We're on vacation. I know. Can someone else handle it? They're trying. He looked genuinely frustrated. I promise this won't take long. I had no idea life was quietly preparing to test every belief I still had about marriage. And I certainly never imagined that one unexpected person would notice everything I had been trying so hard to hide. Our departure day arrived faster than either of us expected. For the first time in months, Nathan wasn't carrying his laptop bag when we left the house. Seeing him without it almost felt strange. Feels lighter already, he joked as he loaded our suitcases into the trunk. I smiled. I hope you remember how to relax. He laughed. I guess we're about to find out. The drive to the airport was surprisingly enjoyable. We talked about old vacations we had taken while dating, laughed over embarrassing travel stories, and even argued playfully about which snacks were worth buying before boarding. For those few hours it almost felt as if we'd stepped backward in time. The tension that had quietly built between us over the past 2 years seemed to fade with every mile we traveled. I caught myself thinking maybe I'd worried for nothing. Maybe all we had needed was distance from work. Maybe love had simply been buried beneath stress. I wanted to believe that. More than anything. The coastal town welcomed us with warm sunshine and the salty scent of the ocean drifting through the air. Palm trees lined the streets. Small cafes spilled laughter onto the sidewalks. Colorful flowers decorated nearly every corner. Even the breeze felt slower than back home. Our hotel overlooked the beach. The room wasn't extravagant, but the balcony offered an uninterrupted view of the water. I stepped outside almost immediately. That frightened me even more. Silence had become normal. A few days later something unexpected happened. Nathan came home earlier than usual. For the first time in months he actually looked excited. I have an idea, he announced while setting his briefcase on the table. I laughed. That sounds dangerous. He smiled. What if we disappeared for a week? I looked up from my laptop. What do you mean? A vacation. I blinked. A real vacation? No work. No meetings. No deadlines. I couldn't remember the last time he had suggested something spontaneous. Are you serious? I think we need it. Those words alone almost brought tears to my eyes. Not because of the vacation. Because he had finally admitted something wasn't right. We spent the rest of the evening browsing beach towns online. Every destination looked beautiful. White sand, blue water, small cafes, oceanfront hotels. For the first time in a very long while we laughed together. We debated restaurants, compared hotel reviews, argued playfully about whether sunrise walks were better than sunset walks. That single evening reminded me of the couple we used to be. Before careers, before schedules, before silence. Eventually we booked a charming seaside resort several states away. The countdown began immediately. Every day I crossed another date off the calendar. I convinced myself this trip would heal everything. Maybe we simply needed time away. Maybe everyday stress had buried the people we once were. Maybe love had been waiting patiently underneath routine all along. I held on to that hope more tightly than I realized. I sighed and placed the food in the oven to keep it warm. Around 9:30 the front door finally opened. "You still awake?" he asked. "I was waiting for you." "I'm sorry." He looked exhausted. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. His shoulders slumped under the weight of another impossible workday. I lost track of time. I smiled anyway. "It happens." He kissed my forehead before heading upstairs to shower. That was our entire conversation. 5 sentences. After nearly 14 hours apart. While washing the dishes, I suddenly wondered something that frightened me. If someone asked me what my husband had been thinking lately, would I even know? The answer hurt. I wouldn't. The following weekend we attended a neighborhood barbecue. Everyone laughed. Children chased each other through sprinklers. Music played softly from portable speakers. Couples joked together while sharing food. Nathan spent most of the afternoon answering emails. Nobody seemed to notice except me. Even standing beside him, I felt invisible. When we drove home that evening, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable anymore. "I'll probably be late tonight," became his most common sentence. First I understood. Everyone has demanding seasons in life. I even admired how hard he worked. But weeks became months. Months became years. Eventually his work schedule stopped feeling temporary. It became our entire marriage. Meanwhile, my career allowed me to work from home. Most mornings began with client emails, design sketches, video meetings, and endless revisions. Although I enjoyed my work, the house often felt strangely quiet. Sometimes I realized several hours had passed without hearing another human voice. I'd make lunch, eat alone, continue working, water the flowers in the backyard, then wait for evening. Waiting slowly became my habit. Waiting for dinner, waiting for conversation, waiting for weekends, waiting for things to somehow become normal again. Ironically, nothing terrible was happening. Nathan wasn't cruel. He wasn't dishonest. He never forgot birthdays or anniversaries. He always asked if I needed groceries. He always remembered to lock the doors before bed. He handled responsibilities perfectly. But love isn't built only on responsibility. Sometimes people stop loving through words long before they stop living together. One rainy Thursday evening, I stood in the kitchen preparing pasta while listening to the sound of water hitting the windows. Dinner had been ready for almost 40 minutes. Nathan still hadn't come home. I checked my phone. No messages. No missed calls. Before we begin today's story, take a second to support the channel. If you enjoy emotional true story style dramas filled with unexpected twists and heartfelt moments, click the subscribe button and turn on notifications. It only takes a moment, but it helps us continue bringing you stories you'll remember long after they end. Now grab a comfortable seat, relax, and let's begin today's unforgettable story. 3 years ago, I believed I was living the kind of life most people wished for. My name is Claire. From the outside, everything looked stable. I had a loving husband named Nathan, a comfortable home in a peaceful neighborhood, steady freelance work as an interior designer, and enough financial security that I never worried about paying bills. Friends often told us we were lucky. Family members admired how calm and mature our relationship seemed. Social media painted the picture perfectly. Weekend dinners, holiday photographs, birthday celebrations, anniversary smiles. If someone had looked only at those pictures, they would have thought we had discovered the secret to a perfect marriage. The truth was very different. Pictures never capture silence. They never show two people sitting in the same room while feeling miles apart. They never reveal conversations that slowly disappear until only routine remains. That was exactly what happened to us. It didn't happen overnight. No dramatic argument. No betrayal. No screaming. No broken dishes. Just distance. Small pieces disappearing one after another until I suddenly realized I couldn't remember the last meaningful conversation my husband and I had shared. Every morning followed the same schedule. Nathan left before sunrise carrying his laptop bag and an oversized coffee mug. He worked as a regional operations manager for a growing technology company, and every week seemed busier than the last.